Hi, this is Dusty. In this video, I want to talk about why I believe Dexterity is fundamentally the best attack stat in the game. Just as a reference, I started Nioh 2 over and over again at least 13 times. 2 I brought to endgame. The other 11 I got through Dream of the Samurai. All of this is to find the optimal build for new players to use. To start off, we'll talk about the Nioh 2 community's base understanding of Dexterity. It is the primary attack stat of Kusarigama and Ninjutsu. Though in truth, Dexterity is an attack stat for two of the best weapon types in the game. A damage boost for ranged weapons, a damage boost for elemental damage, and a duration boost for many buffs. In order for all of this to make sense, let's start off with the two weapon types that are fundamentally the best in the game. Those two weapon types are fists and tonfas. In order to understand why both are the best, one needs to understand that blunt weapons do more key damage than their slashing and thrusting counterparts. However, in Nioh 2, almost all damage boosts are tied to certain conditions, and the more damage boost conditions met, the more damage you do. That being said, many damage boosts are linked to the opponent's ki, or rather the lack thereof. So with fists and tonfas being blunt weapon types, they can achieve high damage conditions significantly faster than other weapons. As far as which is stronger of the two, tonfas are better in most cases, while fists are amazing in more special cases. Why tonfas are better in most cases is due to the fact that next to no other weapon can apply debuffs quite as quickly as tonfas do. When high damage is heavily linked to damage boost conditions, being able to quickly apply those conditions makes it a much better weapon choice. Fists, on the other hand, can do more damage. However, it cannot reach those damage boost conditions quite as quickly as tonfas do. In the occasion that it does outperform tonfas, it outperforms tonfas spectacularly. As for why I'm even talking about these two weapons, it's because both of these weapons use Dexterity as one of their damage modifiers. Since Dexterity is one of their main damage modifiers, you could modify the weapon to use Dexterity as the main stat. So, just by leveling Dexterity, you'll be able to effectively use the two best weapon types in the game. Next, let's talk about ranged weapons. You have three ranged weapon types in the game: the bow, the rifle, and the hand cannon. Bows are silent to NPCs, however, this weapon type does the least amount of range damage in comparison to the other two. Rifles produce some sound, even though it only travels a few steps from the player. Rifles do some decent damage, and is generally the best weapon to use to one-shot human enemies. Hand cannons are excessively loud and will alert just about everyone in an area. Hand cannons do more damage than rifles, but not enough to compensate for the unaware damage bonus that it loses. As for the unaware damage bonus, if you hit an opponent before they enter alert state, you do roughly 50% more damage. Rifles do more damage than hand cannons thanks to this unaware damage bonus. On the other hand, bows have higher DPS on yokai thanks to sacred arrows. This makes hand cannons the worst of the three ranged weapons. Also, hand cannons are the only ranged weapon types that do not use Dexterity as one of their damage modifiers. Against yokai enemies, the combination of sacred arrows and explosive arrows is a deadly one. This is because the combination does purity damage and fire damage, thereby causing confusion state, which boosts all damage by 50%. That and being able to fire rapidly makes bows one of the most deadly weapons against yokai enemies. As far as rifles go, any standard enemy will typically go down with a single headshot. Roaring ammo also puts rifle on par with hand cannons in terms of damage. This is why roaring ammo is best reserved for unique enemies that do not go down with a single headshot. Since bows and rifles both use Dexterity as their damage modifiers, it is only fitting that Dexterity is considered one of the best damage boosts for ranged weapons. Next, we'll talk about elemental damage and buff duration, or rather, how these two are affected by Ninjutsu Power. When it comes to large bursts of elemental damage, many Nioh 2 veterans will attest to Ninjutsu Feathers to doing the highest elemental damage numbers. However, the condition for ninjutsu feathers to do their optimal damage is that the enemy must be at 0 ki. The only enemy types in the game that stay at 0 ki are yokai, and it just so happens that most of the bosses in the game are yokai. This makes ninjutsu feathers one of the most potent damage dealers available, and it just so happens that ninjutsu feathers damage is directly linked to ninjutsu power, which is also linked to dexterity. This is where tonfas excel, as tonfas can easily apply a purity status, which boosts ki damage, and is also a blunt weapon, which also boosts ki damage. This makes tonfas and ninjutsu feathers one of the deadliest combos in the game. Ninjutsu power is also linked to the duration of ninjutsu buff. Among these buffs are quick change, which can revive you once upon death, catwalking, where you make no sound as you run around, sneak thief, which makes you invisible, and power pills, which has its damage boost and duration directly linked to ninjutsu power. Thus, by leveling dexterity, you have major damage boosts to your elemental damage and duration boosts for your ninjutsu buffs. While there are more reasons why dexterity is the best attack stat in the game, these are the primary reasons I could think of. In any event, this is why I believe you should level dexterity as one of your primary damage stats. Anyways, thank you for watching my video. It'd be awesome if you could leave a like and subscribe. I'll do my best to upload something again next week. See you guys next time.